So this developed recently. What do you think about suing the Trump administration over the emergency declaration in order to build the border wall? Why is it necessary? What's the goal?
So that is actually a question that I hope you'll ask of the Attorney General when you get an opportunity. I believe that the cases that this decision is going to detract from other investments that are happening. But the Attorney General filed this yesterday on behalf of the people of Michigan, and when she does that, it means she's acting on her own decision, and so that's why I say it's I think she could probably shed more light for you.
Okay, thank you. And this is a big one that you've talked about throughout your campaign. Your slogan went somewhat viral: roads and infrastructure. And I know we've seen it so many times throughout here, not just with our roads, but right now we're dealing with some bridges in Bay City that are in bad shape, and they're trying to figure out the next plan of action. So I know your budget hasn't quite come out yet, but is there anything you can tell us about your plan for fixing the roads, fixing our infrastructure?
Well, I can tell you this, that the state of our infrastructure is dollars that are coming out of our pockets every single day to fix our cars. Every one of us who drives is paying a road tax in that we have to fix our cars. And it's the worst way to do it because it's not actually fixing the roads. So they continue to get worse. The average driver is spending about $562 a year, whether it's in alignments, replace tires, replace windshields, and that's not to mention the real cost that is danger of driving over a bridge that is supported by hundreds of temporary supports. We got lots of bridges in our state that qualify in that way. The potholes that endanger us as we're driving down the road when someone swerves to miss one or hits one and gets taken off of the road because of it. And so not addressing this is a heck of a lot more expensive than finally doing it. My plan will be on March 5th when I introduce the budget, and people will see that I have a real long-term solution here. And when we get it done, we all benefit. Every single one of us. Makes Michigan more competitive. It makes us safer on the roads, and it's dollars that we keep in our pockets.
Okay. And kind of going along with that, another thing that you have talked about many times is education. Childhood literacy rates in Michigan have declined, some of the worst in the states, the worst since 2014. So do you have any insight that you can give us about how you plan to fix Michigan's education system before your budget comes out?
So part of the broken budget that we have, the infrastructure crisis, the education crisis, the skills gap, is because there have been previous people in office have put off making the hard choices, and so they've taken a little bit of money out of education to put into the roads. It doesn't actually fix the roads, and it compromises our ability to ensure that our youngest children have the wraparound supports they need to be literate by the end of 3rd grade. When you fix the roads the right way, it gives you the opportunity to make sure those dollars aren't being siphoned off of our schools. So we get back to a place where we're really investing in the things that'll make sure that our 3rd graders are literate, that every graduate is on the path to a high wage skill, whether it's affordable 4-year degree or a debt-free community college degree, or an opportunity for people in the workforce to, upskill and to get into a higher wage job. These are all critical components of the budget that I'll be introducing on March 5th. And once I do, I hope people are going to really push to ensure that the legislature embraces this so we can get back to fixing roads, ensuring that our kids have got the education they need to be successful, and making sure that people know that when you turn on the tap, you're going to get clean, safe water.
And something we just covered last week, in addition, kind of wrapping up all of that education component, kindergarten. I think a lot of people were surprised to find out in Michigan it's not mandatory, and there is a proposal right now to make it mandatory. Is that something you foresee or something you hope becomes mandatory to improve Michigan's education system?
I think that early childhood education, the more we can do to get more kids, ensure that they have the opportunity and get them into programs, would be better for us in the long run. If you want to ensure that our 3rd graders are reading, the sooner they start to get, acquainted with and into a school setting, the better our outcomes will be. Mandating it is maybe one aspect, but it doesn't do anything if we haven't really made sure we've made the investment. Putting additional kids into classrooms that are already overcrowded or understaffed is going to not fix the problem in and of itself, and that's why I think when we tackle the education problem, we really have to do it on a number of fronts.
Okay. And this is education related, but not quite improving the education system, but it is about snow days. And right now we have a set number. It's 6 and then 3 extra possibilities. So for a total of 9. And there is a proposal, as you know, for making sure that schools can exempt those that are during a state of emergency. So what do you think about that? Do you think it would be prudent for us to allow the schools to be exempt from those types of snow days?
So, you know, I have got kids in the public schools, and like parents across our state, during the crummy weather, it was, you know, I know the right decision that our kids weren't on the roads, that they weren't traveling, that they weren't in buses, especially during the state of emergency. I declared a state of emergency for the state during one of the weeks, and I think that those days should not be counted against the districts. I understand the balancing act we have to do to ensure that our kids are getting the education they need, but also I do see this as an enormous pressure point on our schools, and so I have said publicly I am ready to work with the State Board of Education and the legislature to ensure that those days during that period of time are not counted against districts.
And infrastructure, education, this one is a little of an offshoot, but we've seen it in other states, especially since the passing of recreational marijuana. Is there any plan to have a sales tax like other states have put into place, that additional sales tax would then fund things like infrastructure and education that you can reveal before your budget comes out?
Well, the plan that we, the voters, adopted did have taxes that are due and owing, and already articulated how those would be spent. As the governor, I know that we don't want to make the mistake that other states have made, or that we've made in our own history in terms of medical marijuana, that we are promulgating rules. We are going to be thoughtful, inclusive, and swift in doing that, so that we make sure that marijuana doesn't get into the hands of our kids, and that we are collecting all of the revenue that is due and owing, and it gets put to work for the people of our state. So we've got some work to do on that front, but we are well underway.
Job growth, a big one, and you've spoken about it many, many times. What is your vision for not only growing jobs in Michigan, but maybe growing different industries, introducing new industries to Michigan?
Yeah, so I was just over at Next Tier, which is an amazing story, and they've made an incredible investment in our state, and they've benefited from, you know, growing right here in Saginaw. I think that one of the most important things for us to lure investment into our state is to make sure that we have the skills, right? We've got the workforce ready to do the jobs. And right now we've got a skills gap in Michigan. Only 44% of our population has a post-secondary certificate or degree. And we really should be at 60%. And that's why I've set the goal of 60% by 2030. I stated it last week, and we're going to meet that, you know, bold goal. And when we do, this will be the place that business grows, that others come to invest and move to. We've got to have the people who can do the jobs, and so that kind of investment is the most important thing that we can do.
And we've seen some of that growth just in our area over the last few years, and people, of course, want to see it continue, especially in Flint and Saginaw, the Tri-City area. It's been wonderful to see that growth. And speaking of Flint, the water crisis has been going on for years, as you know. And just over the weekend, lots of people lined up wanting to get free bottled water, and nothing was available because the truck actually broke down. So what is your plan? I know in the past free bottled water has been brought up for Flint. Is that still a promise you'd like to ensure? How are we going to fix Flint's water?
Well, until all of the pipes are replaced, yes, we need to make sure that there is bottled water available. And I'm working with Mayor Weaver. Right now there is an agreement that will continue on, and we need to expedite the replacement of the lead pipes. We also need to we need to earn back the trust of the people of Flint. That's going to take a lot longer than replacing pipes, but it's something that I'm absolutely determined to do, and that's why I'm on my way from here. I'm headed to Flint. I've spent quite a bit of time there with my cabinet to ensure that we are moving as quickly as we need to address the lingering issues from the last administration. I will say this too, that there certainly are a lot of legal pressures on us as well to resolve as a virtue of what happened by the last administration. That's something that is weighing heavy on us as well. We want to do that. We want to move forward and make sure that Flint's a place where people can trust government again and turn on their water, take care of their families, and live a great Michigan story anywhere you live in the state, but in particular in Flint.
And Flint has seen lead in its water. PFAS has popped up all over the state, and especially around Air Force bases. So what is your plan for ensuring that clean drinking water, no matter what the toxic chemical is, for all Michiganders?
So I am reorganizing the DEQ to call it now the Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, creating a environmental justice advocate as well as a clean drinking water advocate. These are really important pieces to ensuring that as communities are confronting things from PFAS to lead in the drinking water from old pipes, that we are mapping it, that we are nimble, and we are taking it on and addressing it, and holding people accountable who've contributed to this. These are all important pieces to cleaning up drinking water in Michigan. A report was authored almost 6 years ago about PFAS, and action was not taken. And that's why one of my first actions as governor was to sign an executive directive that told state employees how to go about bringing crises of public health and welfare and safety to my attention so that we move swiftly and reports don't get buried or ignored.
And, oh, one more question?
Yeah, just the last one.
Okay, thank you. So already did that, okay, so, ooh. Let's see, we've got two that are good that I'm just trying to decide.
You covered a lot already.
Yes, we did. We covered quite a bit. So let's tackle Medicaid. So, as you know, work requirements, you said the state did accept the terms, but there were some changes that you would like to still implement. So what are those changes? Why make those changes?
So I worked really hard across the aisle to make sure that we had Medicaid expansion here in Michigan, and it's helped 680,000 people in our state. The work requirements, I think the goal of promoting work is one that I share, and it's really important. But in order to ensure that people are able to seek work, we need to level barriers to that, and that's got to be an important component of this. Not just take away people's health care, but to ensure that, whether it is child care or transportation, that we make it easier for people to find work. And I think so long as we're promoting work and preserving health care, we can find some common ground here that really improves life for people in our state.
Okay, anything else to add that we didn't talk about?
Thanks for having me.